I went down to Charleston several months ago. Probably a lot of people know that I took a position in Charleston. And again, being the only black is difficult. A lot of times I'm the only person in the boardroom. I'm ignored. My intellect is questioned, even though I have helped hospitals save millions of dollars. It's almost like you have to prove yourself every time you go in. Had an incident, and one of the reasons that I'm back here now, I left in January. I was in a senior leadership position, went and told a female white employee that she was not doing her job. And, in a very calm manner, she didn't like the fact, I guess, that I, being black, told her that she was not handling her duties. She pointed her finger in my face, grabbed my arm, and jerked me towards the wall. Okay, when I went to talk, and she did this in front of all other senior leaderships, the CEO, vice president of HR, what I was told was, your tone of voice upset her, and maybe you shouldn't have talked to her like that. I packed up the next day and came on back to Salisbury, and I said, 20 years, that's not where I need to be anymore. So what you have to deal with is a level of disrespect when you're in those rooms and you're the only one. You get tired of hearing, you're not like other black people, or you don't talk like a black person, or you don't try to cause that divide or that distance. What I ran into with black people, I didn't have that same experience. I had a great relationship with black people that work. It was just that when you are put in a position where you're the one and only, and I don't celebrate first or ones and onlys, I think that just shows a lack of progress. So I never reveled in being the only one of something. But it was almost like black people were saying, at least one person made it, we have. But then that's all sad when you have to walk around the halls and you have to and you hear that particular feeling. So I'm at the point now where, again, I no longer take that high road. I no longer subject myself to that. I'm not making anybody else rich. I'm making Kenny Hart rich from this point on.
Anybody have a question? Question again?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Kenny, so what was the response when that happened on the part of the white people in the room, since everybody was white?
It was from the senior leaders, from the CEO, the HRVP, and the COO. It was basically, it either didn't happen or we're really sorry it happened. I mean, 2 days went by, nobody said a word about it, and I finally reported it. And then when I reported it, I was told, well, I don't know what you expect us to do. And I said I couldn't have put my hands on her. And so I saw kind of the handwriting on the wall. Now, the people that were in mid-level positions and frontline staff positions, they're still upset that I left. I got an email yesterday where the hospital's in the toilet. They're at the bottom of the barrel now. So I got a little happiness and joy out of that. But it's disappointing, Whitney, in that when these type things happen and you don't have somebody that you can look to the left or look to the right that looks like you, who do you go to? Who is your mentor? Who do you go to for resolution? So it's almost like this feeling of isolation. I worked at a hospital here in North Carolina right after Obama was elected to office. The CEO of the hospital sent me an email, and it was a picture of George Bush with a pimp hat, pimp coat, and he asked me in the email, he says, don't you think this is funny? And I said, no, and I don't know why you would send me something like this. So when I complained about it, then I'm angry, I'm not a team player, I don't understand why you got so upset, it's just a cartoon. I got another cartoon of a black guy overdosed on the street with a bucket of chicken around one arm and a watermelon from the nursing leader, and said, is that not funny? Well, when I said no, well, he's angry. So it's almost like Tracy said, you're in a catch-22, but people that know me know I don't play that. So, but it's a difficult ride, and it's an isolation.
Roger.
Okay, this goes to Tracy and to Ken. Looking at the struggles that both of you all have had in the corporate world, going forward, as a people, which one of us is going to be more suited to handle the grief, the discrimination, the racism, to move forward, to get us moving forward as a people in the corporate world, and how do we prepare our children now for place?
Oh, and I
You go
mean,
first.
okay, well, probably the easy answer to that question is create your own.
That's it.
I'm done begging people for what we should have and the respect that we should generate. As long as you're filling out an application and somebody else's name is at the top, you're never gonna be happy. So my thing is create your own. That's what I tell my children. You know, get the career that you deserve, not the job you have to have.
That's it.
So that's what I push. Now, the other thing, the second part of that, and I'm gonna defer to Tracy, is we can't remain solid in these positions. Initially, and Chris has even said this too, when I had kids that I had to pay college for and you know, trying to make that house note, there were probably some things that I didn't stand up for, but you get to a point where you say, it's not worth it. And that was the decision I made about a month ago when I came back. So I think we have to form alliances. What I have seen, what Tracy says, we get black folk that get a title and forget they black till they get that aha Negro wake up moment and they show them how
Right,
black they
right.
really are. So we gotta quit getting a title and then thinking you're a little bit different. They're gonna
Right.
show you how black you really are eventually. So we need to form better alliances, you know, with people that are in those positions.
Last, okay.
I meant then Tracy.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Ditto.
Kenny and Tracy, I didn't work in corporate America, but I worked in industry. I worked with your father. One of the things that I believe in is I don't take it. I'm gonna tell you straight up and I'm gonna take you to court. I used to want to fight you and beat you up, shoot you even. Now I'm gonna take your money.
Oh, that's it?
And see, the thing that we have to still do is we still have to file lawsuits and you know, I tell black people this. You were raised to know the difference between right and wrong and fair treatment. Why do you take it? I sued the company her daddy and I worked for, received $250,000. Okay? If two other individuals would have signed on, we would have had a class action. I understand you got obligations, but it's just like James Brown say, I'm gonna stand up on my feet. I'm not gonna die on my knees. When you know that you've been mistreated, why is it that you don't fight? That's the problem I have with us.
And I'll speak and say, I too have taken legal action. So I'm not afraid to advocate for myself. If there's one lesson I learned is, I'm gonna have to stand up for myself, and I'm with you. So, you know, some people choose to face this in different ways. I chose to pursue it through another avenue. But in the environment that I work in, and now, it's not so much as what I have to fight myself, because I'm at a point in my career, I have choices. I'm like Kenny, I'm like, forget this, I can go work somewhere else and do, if this ain't working. But the biggest challenges that we have are the barriers to get into these industries. And then when you get in, how do you handle them? I think that's kind of the question that was on the table. And really, my answer to that is learn to advocate for yourself, know what your rights are.
Chris, I want to say one more thing and then I'm going to be quiet. Just in response, William, what we have to do is we have to really meet people where they are, just like Tracy and you. I filed so many EEOC complaints and lawsuits and different things. One, I'll be honest, diversity, when people holler diversity, that's a joke to me. If you don't have diversity and inclusion, you can hire all these black folk you want to, but if they're not integrated into leadership, decision-making positions, you ain't got nothing but a whole bunch of black people in a position. Now, to also, what you've got to do, I can't put my thumb on people who might be working in environmental services, GED, education, and I'm not talking down, but what I'm saying is, you got 3 kids, you trying to make ends meet, I'm not gonna stand over you and say, I can't believe you putting up with this shit, I can't believe. No, I gotta meet you where you are and help you. So everybody's not gonna have the same level of fortitude. So that's why I think things like this are important, to where we can give people that level of confidence, because I'm telling you, it's hard, it is hell out there when you're trying to make a living and you know something is wrong, and the people you sitting there looking at don't look nothing like you and don't care nothing about how you feel, and then turn it around and make it you wrong.
Right.
So can you imagine somebody that's not in a position or has that level of confidence? They're intimidated by that.
So,
Can I
and what
say
we'll
one
do,
thing before you finish up on this? Just one quick
go
thing.
ahead, go ahead.
This is what I learned about lawsuits. People that got money don't care about you suing them, because they don't have to pay you. That's why they have insurance companies. So when you sue a person, I mean, I call it temporary relief because they want to keep doing the same thing unless they're challenged by those who have the authority to challenge. I'm not saying don't sue,
Right.
but when you sue, people have to be in the position to challenge those people that you're suing. Because if they give you $250,000 and they making $1.1 billion and they ain't got to pay you because they paying the insurance company to pay you, do you think that's still affecting them? That's just one, excuse my expression, that's just one less Negro or one less person, whether, no matter what color you are, that they have to deal with.
That's why the see is so big now. And what we'll do, did you have one question?
Yeah, I just pretty much on the line of what Kenny was saying, but I just wanted to pose a question. You know, it's good for us, and we're at the age where we can make an impact and make a difference. But just saying what these two brothers are trying to do or getting ready to do, how would we ready our youth
Right.
to bring them up with this type of mindset and understanding? Because when you think about youth now, the biggest thing we do is prepare them for athletics. We prepare them for football, we prepare them for basketball. And like the video said, that's their way out, that's their way to make it. But there was a sense at one point where you saw a lot of, especially a lot of black men were entering into being doctors and being lawyers and doing things like that. But how many are we ready to be where it really makes a difference as politicians? Because they're the ones that write the bills, make the laws, make the rules, and all of these things. So they don't care nothing about us being doctors or lawyers. They don't care nothing about us bouncing the ball and running a touchdown. As long as we're not in position to where we can be in the room where the rules are written, when the rules are written, and where the laws are made, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. And I guess like the brother said, that's why LLC is so big. They don't care nothing about you suing the company no more because they pay LLC to pay you a couple pennies to shut you up so they can keep on doing what they want to do.
I think there are more things in life, and there are a lot more people out there that are in the things other than sports, but people are going to sell you on what they think you like. If black people are in the basketball, or black people are in the football, they have to sell you on that because that's like the guy that invented the super soaker. They don't never do a story of the guy that invented the super soaker, but he just won a $75 million lawsuit. But he's got so many different inventions like that. If you pull them up, and there's a lot of black people or people of color that's doing a lot of great things, but it's like they sell us on the fact that this is where we need to be. And if anybody understands about sports, that's the 1% of the African American or athlete period make it in any professional sport. So when people start selling us on this thing about this sports thing, we should already know in the back of our mind that that's some bullcrap. Just like the little baseball player girl. I actually emailed her mother and said, look, this is what you need to do with your daughter. Don't let her go to college, send her over Europe, let her play a pro sport and go to college at the same time when she turned 18. Because you can do that in Europe. But here they tell you got to go to college, you can't get paid. So why do it here if you go to Europe over time and get paid plus get education? Why are you getting paid?
And sorry, we'll.
I don't start.
No, you are. Then what we'll do after we finish the list of questions, then we can have more of the organic back and forth Q&A. So, you are. I like that, brother. But we're going to get to the questions first. And the next question kind of leads back into what Kenny was talking about, and Tracy, about having our own. So I'm going to go with Brother Kenneth Fox Muhammad. And his question is, having been a community activist, mayor, mentor, and a collage of other things, why is economic development the most pivotal piece in transforming a community?
Because when you're dealing with social and you're dealing with education, they run hand in hand. When you go back and look at the inception of the U.S., the educational system was contracted to psychiatrists and psychologists to actually give us an educational curriculum. And if you go back as far as Woodrow Wilson, I think I can't quote it exactly what he said, but what he said was that we need an educational system that will produce only a few geniuses, but it will produce more, a majority of people that will fit for menial jobs. And that's what you got in America. You got the doubling down in American society. So when you don't have the economic ability to advance your own ideas and your own cultural No, your culture should become what you do for business. And, you know, one of the things we joke about in the nations, I meet Muslims and I meet Christians and you know, I used to always wear a bow tie because I wanted people to know what I was into so they could check me. If they saw me somewhere doing the wrong thing, they would say, I thought you was supposed to be a Muslim, right? Because we need, especially black male, we need that foot in our behind so that we can rise to be who we supposed to be and who we need to be for our people, the symbol we need to be. But sometimes we'll take off the bow tie to do business. Or sometimes we'll take off the cross to do business. And whatever our faith is, whatever our religion is, this should be how we do business. I had a difficult time acting in this film because I don't usually act. Hard for me to get in. And I kept saying, they kept saying, I want you to be arrogant. I'm like, damn, I couldn't do it, you know. And so finally I said, the patient, so I started trying to act. And I'm like, exactly, but the economics is actually, it's inherent in our system. You know, if you lose weight or if you want to lose weight, everything is based on economics. Like what you put in, what you put out, that's economics. What you see, what you feel, what you hear. And you know, people say, well, you got to, it ain't none of my business. I just heard old people all my life say we should be doing this, we should that. And so I started internalizing what I saw. Because none of us come here because we want to come here. We come here because somebody thought of us. And then God heard that prayer, he put us in a body, and then here we come. And once we get here, economics got us all the way here. Once we get here, we don't know how to count, we don't know how to do anything. Because we forgot what was going on in 46 weeks we was in the womb. So economics gives you that power which puts the oppressor at bay. Because when you can think for yourself, like Kenny is telling me, I've been out of the corporate system since '94. And every day for about 10 years, my worst fear was, how you gonna make that? How you gonna eat? Then I came back to East Spencer, got into the mess in East Spencer. Chris knew what I'm talking about, allergy. How you gonna make money? We got a PhD and can't get a job. I don't want no job. But it took all this time, up to I'm 56 years old, and I'm comfortable in the fact that I don't need a job. I need opportunities, and I need experiences, and I need conditions, and the condition that our community is in, and we stay in our own communities. You'll make some money. You may not get to be a millionaire, but you'll make some money because what you learn and what you experience, that's what our people need to get from you. And so economic development, it gives you a chance to build your own world or social construct. What they talk about is a social construct that the system put in place and said, okay, before I went to prison, they said 3 out of 6 black men would go to prison. When I was in prison, they said 6 out of 10. So if you got 3 and then the 6, that means there's nobody left but the preachers. I'm just keeping it real. It's funny, but you know, but prison is the #1 product in America. And also by imprisoning us, you stop the revolution. Except when you let us go in there and when you meet some old heads and when you talk about all the results and the outcome from all of the stuff we talk about, if I had to say what would happen if we did a Black Leadership Institute, what would happen if we did this tsunami thing, Alex is the product. Alex, you can hit play. And you don't know how to get no out of challenge out of Alex. Alex has been programming for 18 years. Not cause Harvard or Duke or North Carolina. The brothers in there that don't have no degrees, they put you down in the game and then you start to see, okay, it's a whole nother population of black men that you didn't know nothing about, that's less off, that's worse off than you, that don't have the contacts you got on the outside. And so when you come home, I didn't do 30 months. So you'll still hear my language. You don't hear no bad language from Alex. I gave all the good language up. Everything from corporate, I left at the prison. You see, Alex got enough time to get all the bad out. I still got some bad in. I know it, not sure. And my language is what it is because I don't have to go to white people and advance my theory. I got to convince black people that you can do this. You can do this. You don't need no master. And I tell people I don't have no white advisors. I don't say that with no conceit. I say that humble, because God blessed me where I can get that information from black people. Because no white person can tell you how to fix the places like East Spencer. Only somebody that came up in that mud down there can tell you how to do it. And so you get the PhD, because you need it. And Dr. Bird is here, you know, without you, the PhD ain't got no value. You have to bring the value to the PhD. You understand what I'm saying? So the PhD don't make nobody. You bring that value and everything we do like this. If this don't happen, then what's the alternative? So ain't no middle ground. It's you either do something about the problem or you don't do anything about the problem. I hope I answered the question.
No, you answered that. Actually, I'm gonna come back to you later because I wanna ask, and I'll let you think about it, before I come back. But the question is gonna be when I come back, are there resources, out there for urban communities to create economic development within their communities? And I'll come back to you with that question. The next, since we're talking about preachers, he said that, nobody's left but the preachers.
That's what I wanted to say.
I'm with you, brother, I'm with you. I'm with you, Doc.
Oh, my bad, too. We're going to go down to Brother Anthony Smith. As I said earlier, Anthony launched the Mission House today. So he's doing a lot of great things in the community. One thing I can say about Anthony is that his words don't come back void. You know what I mean? A lot of people talk, but Anthony, when he talks, it comes back and it's reality. So Anthony, my question to you, and we've talked about this before, some say that true change will come through the church, but right now, that notion looks very bleak. What has to take place in the next 5 to 10 years in the church for the blood not to be spilled on the streets due to a class war?
Wow. Actually, there's a story I tell folks real quick. A couple years ago, there was a public event, actually hosted by Brother Andrew. It's a marvelous annual event called 1,000 Men Marching. And the first one you had, I remember, I'll never forget this. It was a lot of brothers showing up, marching, talking about the issues in our community. And there were 2 preachers who led us off. And this is kind of a parable of what we're dealing with in our communities right now. One preacher gets up and says, names all the problems in our community. You know, we got to do something. It was like a call to action kind of thing. All hands on deck. We got to do it. We got to do it. The other preacher gets up and says, well, you know, it's the last and evil days. God said these things were going to happen. This is the sign of the times. This is the fulfillment of prophecy. As to say, the black-on-black violence, the poverty, the ennui, the despair in our community is the will of God. He wouldn't say it directly, but that's what was being inferred. So quite frankly, what needs to happen, there's several things that need to happen. But one thing needs to happen is churches need to be challenging their imagination.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We need to be challenging our imagination. The gospel is not a slash and burn, get out of earth, jail free card.
Right.
Right? So one of the things that needs to happen, especially in our communities, we have to distinguish the Christianity that was handed to us, forced upon us during slavery, where we were taught to wait for the rapture and go to heaven when we die. Those are the main tenets of the Christianity that was handed to us. Matter of fact, for many black Christians, it's hard to even think outside that imagination. Although Jesus was Jewish, and a common Jewish belief was God was restoring the world. That God's not going to destroy the world, but you're called to restore the world, right? That God's not going to burn the world up, you're going to escape out of it. Jews never had a belief like that. But because of certain kinds of beliefs that we've adopted were forced upon us during slavery, a certain brand of Protestant faith, it's hard for us to imagine outside of slave Christianity. Frederick Douglass talks about this a lot. He talks about the Christianity about slave-holding Christianity versus the liberating freedom kind of Christianity, right? Now, I'm not saying we all got to believe the same thing and all of that, right? But going back to the parable, if you believe that the role of the church is simply to get people to heaven, to wait for the rapture, and all the crap that's going on in our community right now,
Right.
what impetus, what motivation do you have to do real work beyond charity? Right. See, charity is not justice. And the church oftentimes is really good at that. We're good at handing out toys and turkeys and fish. Nothing wrong with that. Charity is important. But charity is not justice.
That's right.
Even within our own, if those of you are Christian here, or Jewish or Muslim brothers and sisters, a part of our own tradition is the belief in restoration or jubilee,
Right.
where you feel so much in debt that the economic, the political, the social the tables were actually turned by divine law. You had to restore debt to people who were poor. You had to return land back to people, right? So at the level of institutions, we need a religious faith that can challenge our institutions, political institutions, economic institutions, create spaces in our communities where there's innovation, where we create rainforests, very fertile spaces of innovation and entrepreneurship in our communities among our youth. But if you think the rapture is coming tomorrow, what impetus do you have for that?
That's good.
So I would say there's a lot more to that. But one other thing I'll say this. I love what Brother Fox said. And there's a lot that we agree on. And there's some things we disagree, but I love this brother because we're like almost like twins when it comes to our religious faith as far as the zeal that we have for our faith. It is this. When you look at the emergence, when you see the Industrial Revolution and public education, they emerged simultaneously.
Yes, sir.
Right? So public education was created to create a regimented labor force.
That's right.
Right? When you're in a factory and it's time to go off work, went off, the bell.
That's right.
The bell goes off between periods, right?
Right.
So during the 19th century, certain institutions emerged alongside that. Well, guess what else emerged? Denominational systems.
Right.
Religious institutions, former religious institutions emerged during the Industrial Revolution, education system, and formal denominations. So church systems, church institutions emerged in that same time. So what does that mean? Churches play a role in creating a labor force. Right? Work. Be a good Christian. Work your 8 hours. Don't talk back to the boss.
Right.
Slaves obey your masters. And so there's a certain imagination that we've been taught that needs to be, quite frankly, erased within our church institutions, where we actually create environments where people come into their truest self, their fullest self, and they're not trapped in these narratives of remaining sort of subservient to those in power. Right? I said a whole lot there, but that's just sort of like some tidbits there. And the thing is, all institutions aren't all bad. I don't want to say all churches are bad, because they're not. But we cannot ignore the bigger picture of what's happened in the last 3 to 4 centuries, especially with black folk in our communities, especially as it relates to church.
Appreciate that. What we're gonna do, when we finish the panel, we'll do the discussion. Anthony, matter of fact, Ralph Young reached out to me a couple of months ago, and he said, man, is there any way you can get the brother Smith over to my house where I can get some other brothers in so that we can have these same kind of conversations? So you've got a lot of people that are looking at what you're doing in the community and like what you're doing in the community. But I like that, man. You've actually given me some hope. Because, I thought it was Katie bought the door.
This is a question that I always ask people in this community that I have conversation with, is this. What are the preconditions for true social innovation, renaissance in this community? What are the foundations that we can lay in this community as community stakeholders to precipitate that? Me from the religious field, others from the political, social, economic field. What can we all do to make a very fertile environment that produces innovation, capital, people using their gifts and their talents and their visions? How can we do that? And that's a question that drives me.
Wow, that's deep. I think Brother Fox has got he's got some of the answer to that. He's been working on some stuff for like 25 years that he'll share later today. He's got some things about a renaissance of what you speak of. So after I go from the pastor, then, there's always some antithesis to clergy, Christianity, this, that, and the other. So I would have to come back to my great friend Brother Russell Swilly. My question for you, Russell Swilly, we've talked about this and you've talked about this to the chamber as well. Why does racism out-trump Christianity?
Very simple answer I'll offer, Chris. Is I will use racism interchangeably with white supremacy. Okay? White supremacy is the dominant religious system. I define religion definition my own as a strongly held belief that is backed up by action. It's really a waste of my time to talk about the efficacy of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, you name it. In the final analysis, white supremacy, the internalization by white institutions and black people themselves, trump any professed belief. I will go a step further to say that it is the unnamed political system that has made the world what it is today. Okay? It finds its expression in 9 areas of activity: economics, entertainment, labor, law, politics, sex, religion, that's what we're talking about, and war. Here it is, you got Halle Berry receiving an Academy Award by having debauched sex with a white man. See? So, I mean, it's inescapable. I would go as far as to say that white supremacy and people who've internalized white supremacy are anti-God, especially in view of recent events. Essentially what they're saying to God is, God, I don't like your creation. I want the planet to myself. And I'm going to murder every black man in close proximity to myself. See? So, I mean, no debate here. No debate here. It is something that we have to examine and dissect along with white skin privilege, okay, and the concomitant power systems that are associated with it, or else you will never get out of it.
Let me ask you this.
I appreciate the question.
Russ, how would you disseminate white supremacy versus classism?
White supremacy trumps class, Chris. It is unfortunate. This is the thing that Dr. King dealt with. And in fact, it would be almost idyllic if Americans could involve themselves in a class-based struggle. But because of white supremacy and racism, white people are put into position of feeling that they are superior on the basis of race. We call it the psychological wage of whiteness. White man making $3.25 an hour, black man making $3.25 an hour, but he feels he's superior simply because of his skin color. Even though from a class-based perspective, you're on the same economic level. This is what Dr. King dealt with the racists when he was in a Birmingham jail. He said, you should be out here marching with every one of us Negroes. You just as poor as Negroes. And so, suffice it to say, Americans are intellectually or morally incapable of coming up with a class-based analysis. Rarely will you find a populist movement in the United States because of the continuation of white supremacy and race. You can look at Bacon's rebellion, you can look at the rebellion on the part of Tom Watson. King was close, Chris. In 1968, what he was trying to amass was a popular struggle to descend on Washington, where he had developed a coercive power strategy basically to paralyze the economy here in the United States. Okay, but he never made it. Okay, he was killed in Memphis. So Americans have a long way to go in amassing themselves on the basis of class. White people have a long way to go in accepting black leadership, interacting with black people, and empowering them. Okay? So, I don't know what else I can say except to say that racism has been very divisive to the detriment of a class warfare, even though class is even though class warfare has been continuously waged against poor people, people of middle income.
Can I ask you a
I
question as
appreciate
well?
the
And
question.
it kind of speaks to the question Anthony had. And the reason I asked this is because I sat in a meeting last week with a group of people, and I was embarrassed, ashamed, and disgusted to be sitting in that meeting watching black people beg for city people. The chief don't give a shit about the black community here, and it was embarrassing to watch them sit up and beg him. So how have we arrived in a position where we have power, but we're afraid to take the power, use the power, and we're constantly in a position, and that's what my campaign is about, is to tell black folk, quit begging for crumbs off the table and build your own table, and quit begging to sit at somebody else's table that don't want you there. So how do we get into that position?
Well, brother, I will say, I have to look at what has happened to our culture. See, culture is a thing that makes cooperation natural. We're talking about a group of people as a whole who have been deculturized, you know, to the point where cooperation is not natural. Okay. You start, be faithful unto the few things. You know, small groups, and you'll be the rule of many. You know, if I can, you know, coalesce, you know, Christian doctrine with what you're trying to do here. I will also add that every aberration, brother, in the African American personality serves a social, economic, political intent that is beneficial to the European. You just go down the list of the things that we have to complain about ourselves about. And then you ask the question, inevitably, who benefits from these aberrations? See, you got money, but if I don't trust you, we cannot develop an economic system. See, and this is the kind of thing that we're dealing with. You know, suffice it to say, we need an African-centered curriculum, you know, to eradicate, you know, many of these psychological ills, okay, that prevent us from empowering ourselves. In order for us to be in the position we are in, we have to have been made out of our minds, literally. So, you know, and for an African to be normal within the European context is to be out of your mind.
Okay. And like I said, once we finish up the panel, then we'll be able to get into more of an organic discussion of Q&A. So I will come with our brother, Alex Clark next, AKA Duke. Duke, my question for you is, and I'll make these questions up, so if they're bad, then blame me. Mass incarceration is becoming a worldwide cliche. You have transformed your mind and your spirit over an 18-year span. So, does prison really rehabilitate, or is it just a fancy word that is often used to make society feel good?
It's definitely a fancy word that's often used to make society feel good.
Speak on it, brother.
Regardless of where one is at, it has to be a conscious choice to change yourself. I've seen a lot of brothers actually get devoured by the system. And what I mean by that is coming in with anger issues that were never solved whenever they were children, resentment issues, abandonment issues, even when it comes to dealing with like functional illiteracy. I used to do a pre-GED class, and to actually witness men who are old enough to be my father, my age range and younger, who couldn't identify three-letter words, no word association. It just really, you know, made me look at my situation that much different, as well as what they're selling to the public. First of all, this money that they say that they spend on prisoners, they don't do that. It's the biggest lie ever. Whenever they talk about a lot of the jobs that are being outsourced, no, the prison industrial system is an economy within itself. You know, one of the spots I was at in Butner in particular, we made shirts for the Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Army. It's called Unicorn. We also had what you call caps. We paid all the bills for all the BOPs in the country for the most part. So, any of y'all familiar with the SAP computer system they use called SAP? We learned SAP in there. And so while a lot of people out here wasn't understanding what SAP was, we was already up in that program. And whenever it comes to, far as like education, you're gonna get base level education unless, as Kenny was saying, you link with some of the other guys who were in there and you was just driven. Mind you gotta realize everyone in prison wasn't a low-level drug dealer, low-level criminal. You got judges, you got lawyers, you got senators, congressmen. In fact, one of the congressmen that was there at the time, his name was Randall Cunningham. He used to be a part of the Appropriations Committee in one of the Bushes, presidents. So you're around individuals like that. So with the rehab process coming in there, yeah, they have programs, but you have to take the initiative to rehabilitate yourself. They got psychology department, going back to the religious department, all of these avenues. At the end of the day, you have to be self-motivated. One of the things, like I said, with the broken men, being in the penitentiary, you got gun towers, they will shoot, you got guys getting stabbed, you got people getting killed. So a lot of times people say, well, you were sent in to be preserved. Well, what about this guy that's about to go home and end up getting killed? What was he sent in for? To die 2 weeks before he went home? So it really boils back down to, what do you want to do with yourself? One of the things that I see with some of the young men that would come in, because they didn't have strong male figures within their lives, they was just lost. And so they gravitated towards gangs. So it's like, the social pressure, the peer pressure, just to want to fit in. Now making the transition coming out here, the things that I was doing 16 plus years to now is what I'm bringing, because I didn't come out with an epiphany, well, I'm just going to start dealing with children. I was actually a part of a program called Back on Track, and we dealt with children in there. Advanced Granville area, they would bring children from middle school, high school, some collegiate level students, and we would do a program. It was like 7 other gentlemen, myself. We go out there, back in the day, they used to have the Scared Straight program. Okay, what happened when the fear wear off? So now we just started telling them the truth. Because when you tell a person the truth, you empower them. You give them the opportunity to make informed decisions. But you're telling them, if you come in here, we're going to stick you, you're going to be somebody's broad, all that. Well, you got child molesters in there, ain't nobody messing with. You got people that's done did some other crimes, no one's messing with. Not saying that it won't go down, but for the most part, if you do commit a crime against someone in there, you can get more time. So what the public think about prison in a lot of ways, it really comes from what you see on Oz, what you see on TV, what some reporters, give. But whenever you sit down, like I did when I first went in, angry, mad, dudes flipped on me, as we say. But this is what older gentlemen told me. Like, you got yourself in prison because of the choices that you made. Regardless of the guys that you was moving with, nobody ever made you sell drugs. You made a conscious choice to break the law, which leads into a lot of us are totally oblivious to how the law works. Mandatory minimum sentencing guidelines, 841, 846, 924C, 851. Those are the primary charges that African American males get caught up on. Gun charges, conspiracy charge, trafficking and distribution, leadership role. So whenever I started looking at it from a more expanded perspective, it just really made me appreciate the brothers and sisters who actually took the time to educate themselves. Oftentimes whenever you hear people say, well, I'm a PhD, well, that took dedication to get to that level. Whenever I hear a person say that, they have a master's degree. I appreciate it, I respect it. Now what I do have a problem with is, if you have a master's degree, why are you still a slave to somebody else? If you have a PhD, you're supposed to be taking your level of education to another level. Me and brother was speaking, and we was talking about our children being educated in the school system. Me personally, I would have benefited much more if I would have had African American males and females teaching me probably from K through maybe 8th, 9th grade, because it would have taught me about me. I went to prison, really, and learned about being a black man. I learned how to be a man in prison. I was a male masquerading as a man. I was able to tap into my strengths, learn about my weaknesses. I had gentlemen pull things out of my blind, and ultimately what we would do, we would sit at the feet of the elders. And these wasn't just individuals that just happened to get caught up. Nah, these were professors. These was men who had their own practices. These was men of note. You know, he was talking about politics and economics. Those are two things that we focused on a lot. Because whenever you get out here, the policymakers make the law. The individuals who control the economy is going to dictate where the money is flowing. You can be educated, you can have a strong sense of value, you know, your education. You can have a good family structure. But at the end of the day, the politicians are making the rules that we are abiding by right now. When taxes go up, politicians, inflation. Okay, whenever the economy goes up or down, the economists are playing with numbers. Whenever you had Alan Greenspan that was saying, look, this is where the inflation is going to be, this is where it's going to drop. But then whenever you have economists who really understands that there's no such thing as money in this country, that House Joint Resolution 192 in 1933 took all of the currency out of the country, the bullion and the silver. Now you really understand that we're dealing with fiat money.
That's right.
So these promissory notes that a lot of us are killing each other for, they're worthless, they're useless, and this so-called billion, trillion dollar budget that we have, they can balance it in 24 hours if they wanted to. So now this is where real education come in at, whenever you understand how the Uniform Commercial Code that works. You know, all of us deal with it, even though we're totally oblivious to it. If you go buy a car, you're dealing with the Uniform Commercial Code. And to conclude, whenever an individual get a federal case, you get a number. That number is tied to a mutual fund on Wall Street. So everybody that's in prison is being traded around the world. Fidelity Mutual, Merck, you got the Corrections Corporation of America, you got all these major corporations that buy into this. So whenever you have, you know, base level education about how the system functions, people will argue, but whenever you start setting them down and giving them facts, I lived through this. This isn't nothing that I believe, this is something that I know from experience. So in order to, I guess, in order to shift the tide with the young black men in particular, we have to re-educate them.
That's it.
And some of the things that I tell these young men when I first meet them is this right here. And no disrespect to no one here because we've heard a million times. First thing I tell them, you're not a nigga. Because if you think like a nigga, they're going to treat you like a nigga. And whenever they treat you like that, don't be mad. Because whenever you embrace that, basically you just telling them by definition, I'm ignorant. And your ignorance, what they say, there's no excuse for ignorance of the law. And so we can come together because I know we have a mutual concern whenever it comes to these young men who are being undereducated, who are being targeted, who are being shot, even whenever they put their hands up. We have a great responsibility. I know it's not going to be solved in one day or one session, but at the end of the day, we can all come together and contribute. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it, Alex. Alex is talking about that straw man. Better know about the straw man and you're solving right. So next, we have two more panelists, and then once we finish those two, then we'll get into Q&A, and then we'll conclude with Kenny Harden telling you about what he's going to do in his campaign. So I want to go to my brother Larry Saeed Wright. I've had the opportunity to witness some of Larry's work, and Larry's very good at what he does. He's a producer. You know, he's highly involved in the film festival over in Greensboro. I ain't got my ticket yet, but it's all good. Now, he had me tickets, I wasn't able to go, but Larry does a lot of great work in the community, grassroots type things. So my question for Larry is this. How do the arts play a major role in the transformation of a community referencing children?
You know, but further we go back, even before we could speak, art spoke to us. You know, you go to the just right on the walls, everything was created through art, you know. And I'm a big sports fan, but I learned a long time ago that in order for me to help my people is to help them become more creative. Give them the opportunity to explore, give them the opportunity to create, and give them the opportunity to tell their stories in a way in which it will talk to us as parents or older people. You know, when I was coming up, my mom used to always leave everything the principal told her. Everything. She said, I know you did. From the beginning, you know what I mean? So one day, my mom came to school, and it was a time, it was in 71, 72, 73, when they was having the riots. And they called my mom after school and said some stuff about my brother, and my brother wasn't even in school that day. So that kind of opened her eyes up to, you know, the situation. So let me get back to the other thing. But I have became an advocate for young people. I became an advocate for the art because, like I said, once we put them in a position to be able to speak for themselves, no matter what type of artists they are, and think for themselves and create for themselves, they're going to be better people, period. It's a proven fact that that any kid or any person take an art-based program does better in all their skill level activities in school, be it reading, writing, math, whatever. It's a proven fact. And the first thing they take out of schools, out of anything, is what? Art. And you know why they take the art out of school? Because once they take art out of school, they can control you, and they can train you to think and do what they want you to do. Now, I have a program that's called Paper to Film. For the first 2 months or the first month of that program, based on the level of how fast our kids are raising their level of what we teach them, they cannot use a laptop or a computer. Everything has to be handwritten from day one. We teach them how to use a dictionary, and we teach them all these basics. We teach them the basics of everything. And I tell people this, kids are so smart that they are, I don't want to say dumb, they're lazy. Because even when I get my cell phone, I give it to my son, so I don't have to read the instructions. Because he can say, I got you. But when you start telling them to do stuff, and I'm not saying my son's 25, but a lot of young kids I'm dealing with now, when you tell them the right stuff, just like the program I'm with now, it's after school program. So the first week we went in there, we had the kids write stuff. They was writing in text. I'm like, what is this? They said, this is text writing. I said, you can't write like that, sister. Brother, you can't write like that in the real world. You can't text people if you're trying to get a job. They didn't even know how to read a dictionary. Now, mind you, the kids that I'm dealing with are straight A students in high school. Wow. I'm telling you what I know. So I'm looking at this, and then I was talking to some administrators, and we got to talk about the graduation thing. This is something I did not know. You know, 50% of the kids that graduated from Guilford College last year, and I could be wrong on these numbers, didn't even get a diploma. They got a certificate of completion. Now, what in the, excuse my expression, what in the hell is a certificate of completion?
And they can't even use that. Can't even use it.
I didn't know this. So that made me more vigilant in my quest to help get brothers and sisters. When I mean my brothers and sisters, I don't want y'all to just think I'm talking about black kids and white kids, because I had a big issue with people saying, well, they're brothers and sisters because all young people are my brothers and sisters. I'm a mentor to everybody. Now my focus is black people, period. But I am willing to work and help anybody, because we can't blame young people for our ignorance and our stupidity. We can't do that. Because you are what you eat. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I did dope for 15 years in the 80s and crack that head. So I'm sitting here talking to these people about these young kids today. I said, I'm gonna explain this to you, how the whole game works. If you was 25 years old and you had a child at 12, 13 years old, and you did dope for 20 years, and your young child had to become the parent, the mom, the dad, educator, and everything, what can you tell this 20-something-year-old kid when she becomes that age and she don't listen to you? What can you tell her? You can't tell them nothing because they've been through everything. Their childhood is lost. They don't have the opportunity to cry. They don't have the opportunity to play with kids because they're becoming a parent. And we wonder why they're angry today. Right. You feel what I'm saying? So when I tell these kids to come to my art program, I say, this is the deal when you come to my art program. Starting today, it's your world. I got guidelines. You can't cuss, you can't use the N-word all the time, you can't do this. But every now and then, I let them use the N-word. And going back to what you said, because you know why I let them use the N-word? I said, listen, if you keep saying nigga in your stuff, And if some white person or some Oriental person or somebody you don't like called you nigga, how you gonna get mad? You call everybody nigga.
Right.
You feel me? I said, so we'll use it, but if you wanna stick with it, that's fine. But and you know what the kids do at the end of the program? They say, Mr. Wright, we took that out. And that's what it's all about. And I have worked with kids, I'm telling you, I have worked until they say, he's the devil. I call him the devil, he's bad. I said, no, he's bad because you tell me he's the devil every day.
That's it.
You see what I'm saying? So what I do, I pull these kids to the side. I said, look, this is the deal. What do you want to do? He said, I don't want to do nothing. I said, you know you got to come here every day, right? He come here every day. Then one day he starts scribbling. One day he starts scribbling. One day he starts writing. The next thing I know, he over there with a group of kids putting the stuff together. I said, see, that's how the plan works. I said, that's how the plan works. And with my program, is like, I believe in complete and total separation when it comes to educating young people. I don't need
Like
people.
Montessori type, sorry.
I don't need people to come in my program that has their vision. I need people to come in my program that has young people's vision. And young people's vision is let them tell a story and we're gonna make it work. In 2013, I started my program. We had 7 girls. Couldn't get no guys. 7 girls. We shot 1 film. Last year, we had over 30 kids sign up for the program. We shot 3 films.
Wow.
This year, I'm dealing with 50 kids, and I haven't even started my summer program yet. And you know, and this is the blessing, that Allah bestowed upon me and my program. I have 3 people that are dedicated, just as dedicated I am. But you know the thing about our program? We run on a 0 budget. Won't nobody give us no money. And this program is growing. But the people that comes on, the people that comes into my program, I got people that come from New York to work on Law and Order. I got people that come from LA to do major stuff. And all I got to do is call and say, man, I got this thing going on. When they say, "Side, we'll be here." Because you know why? They see the love and they see the dedication that I have toward young people. So when people ask me about my program, I said my program is an educational art program. So that's what we do.
Appreciate it, Saeed. And last but not least, Miss Alicia Bird. Miss Alicia Bird runs Gemstone, which is a program that she launched, when did she launch that? January, that's right, January. And I'm gonna let her speak to what Gemstone is all about. And then I wanna ask you, you know, how is the program other than any of the other programs that we have here in town? What makes your program different and, you know, profound and more attractive?
Okay. Gemstones Academy is for girls and boys 5th through 12th grade in Rowan County. We meet the 2nd Saturday of each month at the Mills Recreation Center. Our basically logo theme is Inspired to Empower, and our mission actually is to provide our kids with the skill set to achieve their maximum potential by unwrapping their gifts, talents, and abilities. And with that being said, that's a different thing. I know there's STEM out there and different educational tools that schools are using, but our primary goal is to get to the surface of it. We have kids that come in who are in single-parent homes. Some of them, father is not in the home, or either the mother is deceased or things of that sort. And we have some that have a tendency to act out in school and what have you. So we're more so wanting to see what's actually going on with the kid itself. How can we repair the kid before they even get to high school or middle school? What can we do to make sure we're steering them on the right path? One of the things too, like I said, we started in January. Gemstones Academy was chosen by the CIAA cheerleaders. We were their community service initiative project. So we were able to take 29 kids to the CIAA for Super Saturday. That was exposing them to something totally different. The cheerleaders adopted all of our girls. Even though we have young men involved in Gemstones Academy, they went along with us. So being able to expose them to what an HBCU is and prepare them for college was awesome. Also, we took them to Rowan Helping Ministries for their first community service project. So exposing them to, you know, something they're not used to. Instilling in them the importance of gratitude, being grateful for what you have, because you have so many kids who catch the bus outside of Rowan Helping Ministries. So many kids who don't have an iPhone, an iPad, Nikes, or, you know, name brand clothes. And you still have kids such as the ones in Gemstones Academy that are yet to complain about what their parents can't provide to them. So being able to reintroduce them to the importance of being grateful for the little things that you have, such as a table to sit at, your own utensils to use, a chair to sit on and food to eat, nonetheless, a roof over your head. So Gemstones Academy has been great. For the month of May, we're actually introducing the kids to golf as well as chess. So that's something outside of their element, outside their comfort zone, something they haven't been exposed to, teaching them how to think critically, teaching them a game of respect. So that will also give them the opportunity when they go off to college or get into their careers or what have you, to be able to network with those who they think they might not be able to as a young adult now. Also, we're having a golf tournament in August, and the kids, our kids will actually be participating in the golf tournament. It's for scholarships, and our primary goal is to give the 4 seniors that we have $1,000 scholarship this year. Alex and I'm running basically Gemstones Academy, but I partner with him for the Compass component because we have 9 males, and I don't want them to feel like Gemstones Academy is girly. So he's been able to implement his Compass program with our kids, and I'm a published author just as he is. So what we've decided to do is the young girls are actually publishing a book this year called A Different Kind of Beautiful. And so they've been able to pinpoint what they consider to be their type of beautiful. The guys are actually doing theirs, what is your swag? So then going back to what makes it different, they might never see their name on a book cover. So that's letting them know that they can be great. We're not just going to, keep it here. They might aspire to be an author somewhere on down the road. So that's another thing that makes it different from the other programs.
Also, Alicia, could you tell the people here what you have upcoming as far as fundraisers and how they can actually get funds to you and things of that nature?
Sure. I have the information on my website, which is gemstonesacademy.com. May the 22nd, we're having a Porta Pit fundraiser. All proceeds are going towards scholarships as well. And then again, the other fundraiser is the golf tournament, which I expect to be huge. Not only for Gemstones Academy, but for, Salisbury in itself. So if you would like to become a sponsor, we welcome you. You can make donations online, or you can make checks payable to Elect Ladies and Gentlemen Incorporated. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So I will send you a letter